We are actually in the midst of hurricane force winds today, so I have to apologize ahead of time. I thought, what better time than to make a video, but there might be some background noise of wind and there's some squeaking going on. But let's get started today. Franchising. Do I actually own anything? There is a very overused cliche term in franchising that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. But are you really in business for yourself, and what do you own if that is a fact? Now, a lot of franchisees found out the hard way. The franchisors usually hold all the cards, and those handshakes and smiles that you get before you sign the contract may not last forever. And we often talk about lifestyle cycles of franchises here at Franchise City and how the personality and culture of a franchise changes as it grows. So emerging brands typically will have intimate communications with you between the founders and the franchisees, and they're more likely to work in tandem with you towards mutual success. Now, as these franchise systems grow, however, they're often purchased by huge conglomerates, and at that point, the priorities change, often in favor of the shareholders. Now, this can have a detrimental effect on you, the existing franchisee. Now, always keep in mind that the franchise culture that you step into today may not be the same 5 or 10 years in the future. But do you actually own anything after you pay this franchise fee? Can you sell your business down the road, as you see a lot of people doing? In certain circumstances, yes, but not always, and this is very important. Usually, franchisors maintain some level of control over the process, if not all. Now, this makes sense. If you sell your business for a ridiculously high price, the new franchisee will find themselves hard-pressed to operate under all that debt. Or if you sell to someone who's not qualified to run the business, that's going to create issues for the franchisor. So at minimum, most franchisors will maintain some level of control. You're going to want to check your FDD and your agreement to determine exactly what is the case in your particular situation. Now, one of our more popular videos is a Chick-fil-A franchise, and one of the disadvantages of their agreement is you never actually own anything. At the end of the term, there's no equity available to you. It's retained by Chick-fil-A corporate. So arguably in that contract, you're almost a glorified manager. But at least with Chick-fil-A, you know that's the situation. You know what you're getting into beforehand. But what about other franchises like McDonald's? Surely at the end of that term, you can sell the franchise. Well, maybe, or maybe not. Now, most franchise buyers don't give this a whole lot of thought, but most of the agreements will provide a finite term, say 5 or 10 years, and you'll have one renewal, provided certain conditions are met. But after the renewal, what happens? Well, unless you have what's called an Evergreen Contract, and this outlines automatic renewals as long as certain conditions are met, it's likely the franchisor has full authority to make the call whether to renew your contract or not. And no scenario proves that better than the experience of Catherine Slater Carter and her husband Ed. Since 1983, they operated 2 McDonald's locations in Daly City, California. 2011, McDonald's contacted them, stating they would not be renewing the lease on one location when it came due in 2014, but no worries, the company's going to continue the lease. At least this allows them to sell their franchise to another franchisee. Now, 2014 came. McDonald's said, we've decided not to renew the lease, which is their prerogative. And they had actually been somewhat critical of some of McDonald's policies, so whether or not that played into the decision, we don't know. But after 30 years of operating this franchise location, now they ended up with nothing, or close to nothing, as they were able to sell the restaurant equipment that they had purchased and owned at market value, which is pretty much as good as nothing. Now, according to their franchise agreement letter of the law, franchisors had the final say in what happened at the end of this term. Now, some states, including Iowa and Rhode Island, have enacted some levels of protection regarding franchisees' equity in their own franchise businesses. Now, other states have tried to do the same, enact these similar measures, but those bills have been shot down. Now, Slater Carter's own home state, which is California, tried to pass a bill called SB 610 that would have protected franchisees from corporations just taking these businesses away. Now, unless franchisees had committed what's called a substantial and material breach, the franchisor would not have the power to shut them down. Now, the bill actually passed state assembly. That prompted the IFA, the International Franchising Association, to run commercials on how this bill would actually hurt the economy. Now, the SEIU, which is the Service Employees International Union, they countered with commercials that stated this would actually be good for the economy. Now, in late August of that year, the state Senate approved the bill. Now, enter this guy, Governor Jerry Brown. He had the power to, and waited until the very last day before the bill would become law to veto the bill, and that was the end of it. So no added protection for franchisees. Now, some of you might have seen Governor Brown in the news recently, being the politician who vetoed another bill, SB 1463, which was a measure aimed at reducing California wildfires from overhead electrical lines. Wildfires, they've been in the news a lot lately. They've been having a terrible impact on the people in California, and tons of people have been affected. Now, Bill 1463 was unanimously voted for, 75-0 in the legislature and 39-0 in the Senate. So, hey, Jerry, we can help slow wildfires, and absolutely everybody here is in agreement with this great bill. What do you say? Well, old Jerry didn't like that bill either, so he vetoed it. And that decision came back to haunt him, as those wildfires are now burning uncontrollably in the state. But I digress. So when you sign this franchise agreement, do you actually own anything? Well, technically, as you've just seen, unless it's stated otherwise in your agreement, not necessarily. In many circumstances, you're renting the ability to use the franchisor's brand and processes for a set period of time. Consider the potential profit that you could make in 20 years or whatever the case is. And if any event you are unable or can't continue, make sure that this 20-year investment makes sense if you could not sell for a profit. Always have a lawyer vet the franchise and have them explain to you, not just during the term, but after the term, what your rights, responsibilities, and obligations are. Now, as it currently stands in the majority of franchise agreements, the franchisor holds all the power. And if you're thinking to yourself, I'll just open another store, if they do that, well, most franchises bind you to a non-compete agreement that prevents you from operating similar ventures for a number of months or years. But that's a topic for another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and any comments down below help us to spread the message. Thank you for watching.